Hey guys, welcome to the Golf Podcast Live on this beautiful Monday. I'm in Toronto, not in Vancouver this time. I'm here with Michael Bleackley, as always, who's over at ECS Golf Agency. I'm excited to be back in Mindshare Workspace, my favorite place to work. Guys, we've got a special guest. He's been on a couple of times. He is somewhat the guru of knowing a little bit about everything and knowing almost everyone in the golf space. His name is Gary Williams from XFM Radio. He's got a new show on Tuesdays. Check it out. And Five Clubs Golf podcast. Gary, welcome to the show.
Guys, good to see you both.
You as well.
I'm so glad you're feeling better, because the next time that Mike drums you, I don't want there to be excuses about your clubs or your welfare or your state of mind or how little you've played.
Right. It's a rivalry that's been going on for about 25 years. Something we call the Stanley Cup. We did it into a 2-day tournament. We thank for all those people who did come out, right, Mike? And support us.
Huge gallery.
All several people. But Gary, I got to tell you, it's been an exciting weekend. It's always great to have you on. Your perspective is very unique in the sense that you do know a lot of people in the game. You've played a lot of golf courses. You know the ins and out of this game better than most. And being a player as well has to do a lot with it, because we talk to a lot of golf analysts and we appreciate everyone's opinion, but being a player is a little bit different than just being a host or somebody who works in the golf biz, right?
Yeah, I think so. Look, I'm a competent player, relative sense. Look, I think that what's interesting about the game that all of us love is that my perspective is no more valuable than the next person's, but they're all invaluable. We have to have all these viewpoints because the game is so reliant on the people who participate in it. This is not something where, we sit down and we watch a Raptors game and we go, well, we'll go out and we'll play 4 hours of basketball tomorrow. No, we won't. We may go shoot basketball in the gym for 30 minutes, but we don't make the intellectual and financial and emotional investment in these other sports that we do in the game of golf. So the people who play at the recreational level have not only, skin in the game, but they have a responsibility to share their thoughts on what's going on in the game. And it's not just, hey, we like match play, we hope it continues. It's hey, the USGA is making a potential decision on, the kind of equipment the elite players can play, and it may influence, the kind of ball I play. And so It's time for us to weigh in. All these things, like what you guys do, is important. It's important that you have the audience that you have and have these kind of people on that you have on to talk about this game, because it's in a great place right now, but that doesn't ensure that it's going to be in a great place 24 months from now. Not at all.
Yeah. I remember back in 2000 and 2001, the game had such growth because of Tiger Woods and how things just expanded. And I was just thrilled to be in the space, because back in 1999, I got my first coaching certificate, got involved in a Future Links program, very similar to the First Tee in the US. And I started teaching, working at the club, moving on to becoming an assistant professional, going through the professional golf management program. And then it just fizzling out and dying slowly, coming into 2007, 8, 9 with the recession and too many golf courses being built, not enough participation. And this uptick in growth we've seen, this is sort of the second time I've seen this grow as much as it has because of COVID. It's funny that we have that to thank for. It was the first thing that came back that people could go and do outside and participate in, and people discovered golf, and it's been great. But one of the big topics of conversation, you just brought this up, Gary, is the golf ball. Now, the golf ball has been talked about for years. This is nothing new. However, I'm all for rolling back the golf ball for maybe one of the majors. And I think Mike Whan has taken the step in which rolling back the golf ball looks like it will become a reality in some shape or form for the US Open. Your thoughts on that? Because there's lots of topics of conversation. We could talk about technology, we could talk about the clubs, we could talk about course layout, lengthening golf courses. But rolling back the golf ball will give everyone an even keel in a sense, right? The ball itself. Let's take the example of Rory McIlroy. Hit the ball 349 yards on that par 4. It landed on the green, rolled up towards the pin. If everybody was playing the same golf ball, we could truly see the amazing talent and skill it would take for somebody to do that. We've got the young players coming up in the game as well. High school, college golf players who are hitting the ball a tremendous amount. So there's a lot of directions we could go in to talk about this topic, but rolling back the golf ball might be the answer to what we've been talking about for 25 plus years.
Yeah, I'm in support of some type of distance reduction for the super finite set of players that we're talking about here. Absolutely zero change to the recreational golfer, where you make that delineation between whether it is the super elite amateur, is it elite college golf that plays the ball or not. I don't know necessarily about that. I don't know necessarily if the golf ball by itself is the answer. I do, like, again, I'll say it again. I support a distance reduction for the elite player, and for all the elite professional players that are jumping up and down saying, no, this isn't good. This isn't good. We all reflectively, when we feel like it's going to impact us, whatever it is, we all don't want change. But this is not just about the instituting something in 2026, which is when this would go into effect. This is as much about 2076 as it is about 2026. And, in the city that I live in Charlotte, there's one club that hosts a PGA Tour event, and that's Quail Hollow, which also, is hosted a PGA. We'll do it again. Just recently had the President's Cup. But it's not like they're the only ones who have felt the necessity to add length to their golf course. Carmel Country Club and Charlotte Country Club and Longview and Myers Park. These are, the fine private clubs in the city over the last 10, 15 years. They've all added 500, 750, 1,000 yards to their golf courses. And who pays for that? The membership does. Membership has to incur that cost. And where is that going? It's not stopping anytime soon. This is as much about sustainability as it is about, the fact that we're seeing, the best players in the world require these tournament directors and clubs and, organizations to find 8,000 yards in 2023. What are they going to need to find in 2050? 9,000? I mean, I'm not being hyperbolic. That's where it's going. And we're talking
exactly, and
cost and sustainability and water consumption. This is not just about how far Rory McIlroy drives a golf ball. It's far more. It's a much broader discussion than that.
It is. It's a spider web. There's so many moving parts to this discussion, and even when it creeps down to the amateur level, because how often do you see your boys want to go, we got to play the tips, guys, and these tips get longer and longer and longer, where it's not fun for the amateur. So because one of the beauties of our sport is we can go play where the pros play. We can use the equipment they play. And, so I know that's a big side of the no, don't touch the ball argument. But at the end of the day, golf, it's not going to be as fun the further back that AMs start to play and they make decisions based on ego. How often does your group of friends not want to go play the whites? And they're like, sorry, boys, we got to go tip it out here. And these courses, they get too difficult. Like, you see a pro can have a 490 yard par 4 and have driver wedge. Like, that's insane. Like, it's meant to be you're meant to have a long iron in your hand to approach that green by an architect's standpoint. So, and this is where the bifurcation makes sense. And as you said, 2070, 2050, what are we going to do? We're going to be, encroaching 10,000 yards for a golf course. Like, that's just not.
Mike, we got to ask ourselves this question really, really quickly: is what other sport uses a projectile that's different for every single player? Now, be it, golf is very unique in itself. You're not playing with a teammate. You're not sharing a basketball, a hockey puck, a baseball, a tennis ball. However, they rolled back the tennis ball back at Wimbledon because it was just a serving game at one point, right? You couldn't, but that would be probably the closest thing we could actually equate. But there's no sport in the Olympics as well. Imagine if everybody used a different javelin or discus, or you have to. I think it's the easiest way to equal the field. And that being said, so let's say we max out at a 200-mile-per-hour ball speed. Then that ball would go 350 yards, right? You would have spin rate or a compression or the core. I'm not a golf ball designer by any means. I don't understand it, but it just makes sense that a ball could maximize to go a certain length, 325, 350, at the highest level. We know that no one's going to surpass 200 plus mile per hour ball speed, or 100, and we max out at about 125, 27 at the highest club head speed. So once you get to that rate, you could get it out there maybe 350, and then you would see the difference. And it has a lot to do with golf course design and the technology as well, but that hasn't worked. That's not working. The ball needs to be rolled back, in my opinion. And maybe it's just a President's Cup event or a Ryder Cup, or maybe we start with the majors, but the RNA and the USGA have to set the standard.
They do. That's their job. And a couple things that I've heard that I will push back on. One is, and this is a really, really lazy and at bare minimum misinformed position by people saying, when are we going to stop having amateurs make the rules for experts? These people who are in the business of governance when it comes to the game of golf are experts in the game of golf. They don't have to play the game expertly to be experts about testing and about rules making. There are 100 people in the USGA headquarters, and same at the RNA, that could sit down with the best players in the world and whip them sideways when it comes to understanding technology, testing, and rules. Stop. That's one thing. Let's stop with amateurs making rules for they're experts. They're professional rules makers. That's what they do. The second thing is about bifurcation. And this idea that golf has always been unified. Do you know the percentage of people who play every day who play by the rules? It's less than 5%. Now they think they are.
Yeah.
But when they take the mulligan on the first tee, they bifurcated. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you can just play a couple of holes with them and you go, yeah, you're really not playing by the rules here. And that's fine. I'm not here to tell them they should have less fun than they're currently having. The game has been bifurcated for a long, long time. And now all these manufacturing companies are having this death grip, this cause célèbre of unification. Stop it. Most of these pros play prototype equipment that if you picked it up and you tried to swing it, you wouldn't get it airborne. Whether it be the golf ball itself. And I'm not saying that some of these guys aren't playing balls that are actually sold, but, nobody who walks into a pro shop and buys a Pinnacle or an AVX or a Wilson golf ball or a Max Fly, and they're fine products. That's not what the pros play.
No. But that's part of the problem. I think that's part of the problem. Gary, how they're playing clubs and balls that we don't really see.
No.
And you think about the testing and the technology and the availability to someone like Rory McIlroy, who could maximize probably 20, 30 more yards based on the fact that he has a whole development team working on creating a club and a ball that maximizes his distance and gives him optimal precision. We don't have, even the lower end pros who are just don't have that kind of backing behind them. I think there's a distinct advantage to being a top 50 player in the world and having those kind of resources behind you. And this is another reason why on the elite level, at least, we need to standardize the golf ball. I should be able to cut a golf ball open and see that they're all using the same ball, right? It just makes sense to me. I've talked about, Mike, you've known me. I've been talking about this for 25 plus years. I'm saying it's not the clubs. Get the ball down to
Tiger
a
and Jack
standard ball.
This, right? Tiger and Jack have said it.
This drum for 40 years.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to hear Tiger expand upon it. I'll sit in that room a week from tomorrow. I assume he'll speak on Tuesday of Masters Week. He hasn't been vague about his position, and now it's time for him to put his marker down officially when it comes to this proposed modified local rule. But you're right, Mike. The two greatest living players, living or dead, they just both happen to be living, feel the same way. And this is not just a modern challenge or issue. You go back and you read the thoughts of Golden Age architects. They knew what was going to happen, and they said it very clearly. They all issued the warning. Distance is going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. And I'm not trying to stifle the athleticism and the speed and the work that these players have done. There will still be advantages, and maybe an even greater advantage for those with the most speed and the most power.
The most skill. Let me just interrupt for a second. I think skill has a lot to do with it, because you're going to have to get a higher spin rate on the ball. So people are saying, well, they're just going to hit it longer, it'll be straighter. But you've got to increase the spin rate for it to roll back the ball, which won't give it as much accuracy. So we're going to have more wayward shot. We're going to see more creativity. The people who could actually shape the ball left to right, right to left, different heights of the ball, being able to shoot low, mid, high shots. Maybe not someone like a Corey Pavin who's able to wrap the ball around, 70 yards from right to left. But certainly that will be more prominent. Players who could actually shape the ball a lot better.
Well, that's the creative side of golf that I like a lot, is the recovery and the uniqueness, the ball flights. And, go back to the Balada, the professional 90s and 100s, and, that would actually get off center. You'd have to, be cognitive of that. But the feel that came with that ball was amazing. I miss it, actually, being able to bite and spin and that touch around the green. But the new technology in balls just keeps getting better and better, longer and longer. And it's cool, to see some balls, some long drives, but it is detrimental to the game.
If they played stroke play at the match play venue, I understand that these guys, their approach is an absence of fear of thought, because it's a hole. You're not worried about making a 7. You just lose a hole, you move on. I don't think, though, that the mean average of how much under par they were over the course of 5 days of competition, Cameron Young was about 37 under par. Now, it's fun in match play. Sure, it was fun. But if that's a stroke play event, you're being like, this golf course, this is a joke. You would have called a really fun golf course a joke in Austin Country Club. Like, they don't need to be playing there. This is ridiculous. This guy's 31 under par. That's what people would have been saying.
Yeah. If we look back at a couple of things, the ball companies have way too much control. There's too much sponsorship involved. And I think very much like the electric car was pulled back because of, the business of petroleum, and it never surfaced. I mean, the Volt was invented in the 80s. they squashed that whole development with Dodge back then. And I think the companies like Titleist, who control the ball market and have so much skin in the game, have been able to, keep them from actually creating that that local rule for elite players. We'll see what happens. I'm pretty excited to see that it's in the conversation finally, that it's Michael Whan is taking a step. I was laughing the other night when Michael Breed was on. Michael Whan just called in Michael Breed's show. I just happened to be listening, and they were talking about the fact that he has the statistics to prove what's happening in the game and how it's developed. And Michael Breed was saying that, there's only been a 2% increase in club head speed over the last 25 years. And they got into a bit of an argument. And he said, I got to take a break. He goes, can you hold on? He goes, no, you call my office and schedule something. I don't have time for this right now. And it's funny that Michael Whan actually called in just to give his 2 cents because he was so upset with Michael Breed's comments. But that being
Mike
said,
from New Jersey. Let's go to Mike from New Jersey.
Yeah. So
Here's the bottom line on the, again, statistics, as Mark Twain said, there's statistics, damn to statistics and lies. And that, look, you can make numbers dance in any direction you want. Some are more, I think, viable and relevant than others. Bottom line is, when Tiger turned pro, there was one guy who had a driving distance on average of 300 yards, and it was John Dale, and it was 300 and a small margin. Mm-hmm. Right now, there are 87 players averaging 300 or more. Stop acting as if this is not, again, it's a problem. It's a bona fide problem.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Because a lot of people in the business are saying it's not a problem. It is a problem. At the elite, it is a problem. I don't know if you need to be blind, deaf, and dumb to not actually think it's not a problem. And it's only going to help all the players. I mean, if you're hitting it long, you'll still be the longest hitter on tour. You'll be the top 10 percentile. If you don't hit it as long, you won't be hitting it. But everybody will be on the same, even, a game plan here. Like, I don't.
And everybody
it's so much easier
right now. We're not taking your Pro V1s away. Nothing changes for.
But Gary, it will change. It will change, Mike. It will change, Gary, because everybody wants to play what the pros are playing.
And that's fine. If you want to do that, God love you. Go chase it.
Go for it. Make them
you want to have.
Charge $100 a dozen for those Pro V1s, for the tour level, and then
they will.
Go for it. But I'm sorry, I need distance, so I'm going to stick with the other balls.
Yeah, so that formula for that golf ball needs to be spread across the board for all the club companies, all the ball companies then. Because Titleist needs to make a standard golf ball, so does Callaway.
And they already have, by the way. All these guys have already made a prototype. They did it a couple of years ago. They did it around the Distance Insiders report. They have built a geometrically, supportive golf ball in terms of what it is, the parameters are going to be. It's not as if these guys are starting from baseline zero. They have a ball. Yeah. They all do. And all of these companies, and I'm not trying to take their profits away, but while all these record profits were being made, and by the way, these are the same companies that have had planned obsolescence when it comes to equipment for decades. If you don't play this driver, the guy next to you is going to be getting 15 yards. And by the way, in 8 months, you're going to need the next one that we've already made, by the way, that's sitting, in our R&D department. Enough.
It is enough. Like, especially like TaylorMade, how many times a year do you need to drop a new line of drivers? We got the new burner coming out this month. It's like, give your head a shake. It's just too much. And I can appreciate companies like Titleist and Ping that don't just flood the market. They put a little bit of R&D into it. There's some subtle changes, mind you. For us, we probably wouldn't notice, but when you're getting all your data off of Iron Byron, you can measure those micro increases. But really, it's like, if your drivers within the last 5 years, there's very little difference that we're going to notice for the most part.
All right, we've got a pivot, guys. Let's drop the ball. Let's drop the ball and move on to the WGC very quickly. Do a recap. Let's talk about the fact that the WGC is done. Dell Match Play is done. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Do we want to see this type of game? I personally would like to see it once a year. It's nice to see it outside the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup setting. I like the top 64 bracket without the pools at the beginning. I was straight 64 playing one. I like that format. Do I want to see it more than once a year? Absolutely not. I don't think it's exciting enough because it gets to a point sometimes we're not seeing the top players, and that's what everybody wants to see. Everybody wanted to see Scheffler playing McIlroy, not in the consolation round. Good on Sam Burns, fantastic player, local Texan, was great for the crowds. People liked it, but in general, I don't think that it's bringing in the numbers. It's not very attractive to people outside of the golf realm. And your thoughts on WGC? Is it a good thing, a bad thing? Should it come back? Should it be obsolete?
Well, the WGC as a series is coming back. That'll be the designated event series where they're going to have finite shrunken fields, no cut events, which I'm not a fan of. But with respect to the match play itself, I like you. I support the presence of this format at least one time annually. You cannot make the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup every year for all the top players in the game who are all PGA Tour members, things that they are trying to get on these teams by accruing points over the course of 12 to 18 months. And guess what format that is? It's match play for both of those competitions. So you're not going to play that format at all in the entire year leading up to that. And this is another thing where there's this, again, it's contradictory for people to say, well, we want unification. Well, why don't you play the way that the pros play? Why don't you play 72 hole stroke play events? No, you don't. You go out and you play a match. So I think match play is something that, and I would argue that the Saturday they had at match play, starting with with the 16 guys, that's as good as Saturdays they've had all year.
Yeah, there was.
Those were excellent matches, tremendous shot making. It's a format that is different. You had matches that went beyond the 18 holes. I thought Sunday morning, those two semifinals, are you kidding?
Yeah,
20 and
that was good
holes.
golf.
I mean, that was now again, this is the challenge with it. And you got to swallow hard when you get a blowout in the final, as they got yesterday. But over the course of the week, I'm not a fan of pool play. I understand the sensitivity, the sponsorship, the TV partners. All of a sudden on Wednesday, half the field's gone. It is diminishing returns. And that also affects concessions and the gate and the people who are on the property. So I will concede the necessity to a degree to the pool play for the 3 days. Otherwise, again, by Friday, you got 16, whereas on Friday with pool play, you still have 64. So I'll accept it because I understand all the things that go into that. But as far as the format as a whole, absolutely. And here is one of the things that they need to look at. From what I understand, Austin Country Club, they kind of tried to leverage the PGA Tour. PGA Tour said, we're not paying that. So that it sat for a couple of months. And then Austin Country Club apparently went back and said, we'll do it for what you said originally. And the tour kind of moved on. I think that a lot of tour events need to look at the idea of a mini rota, like you have to a degree with at least one of the FedEx Cup playoff events. You will add more variety to to your course rotation. I think you will find some great clubs that say, not every year, but once every 4 years, we'll do this. And it's not 156, it's 64. All right, we can do this. I think that there are ways to be creative for this to exist, and I expect it to be reincarnated Maybe not as immediately as 2024, but within a couple of years.
Yeah, I have the similar sentiments. I'm going to miss this event. I love match play. Match play in Stableford is the most common form of golf outside of North America in terms of, I guess on the amateur side. But I will miss this. But as I watch this weekend unfold, it makes sense because we had a small gallery by the end on Sunday. The matches could have been a little more compelling, although they were 4 great players at the end of the day. But all you got for the whole day is 4 games going on. So I think doesn't bode well for TV. But I had a thought, and call me crazy. I'm going to throw this.
Let me ask you, Mike. Let me interrupt you.
Sure.
Halfway through Sunday morning, were you saying, "Yeah, this isn't enough"? Those 2 matches were fabulous. 4 guys, the television is dedicated to them. It's amazing how greedy we are. And again, I wanted a great final, but we had 4 hours of really good golf.
It was tight.
Those 2 matches, and then we don't get a good final, and then we go, well,
And
again,
what people what I found, I was intrigued in the match itself because you were following the pace of that match. The guys were getting up to their shots fairly quickly, and I find I was compelled into watching that unfold in the morning. The afternoon wasn't as exciting, but it wasn't terrible. I like that golf course. There's some really interesting holes for match play and some wild undulations, and it's a Pete Dye course. So one bad swing and you're looking for your lunch, right? So that I thought was great. But and here's my wild thought, and call me an idiot if you think so, but we know we're going to lose people through the course of a match as people get knocked out. But what if we had, you bring in a skills competition, much like, say, the All-Star Week for NHL. Say the guys that get knocked out, we start doing some fun things, make it for money, make it for charitable donations, whatever it is. Say we do pull out some of the big break challenges, flop walls, get creative, do something else. You know what I mean? I'm just throwing an idea out of the top of my head, but maybe there's a secondary competition that could just enthrall the crowd.
Mike, you're onto something, because we love to see those types of competitions. The Big Break was one of the most successful shows of all time. To be able to see those players, some of the best TV coverage is on the range at majors. We're just watching players hit balls, people talking, that kind of atmosphere where there's a lot going on. People, you were watching balls being shaped, talking about, golf swings, types of shot making, the conversations between caddies and coaches and other players. I feel like we're on the right track of getting people mic'd up and showing the product a little bit differently. But that's a great idea, Mike. I mean, if you had some sort of skills. I don't think they would be too into it, but if there was money involved, it makes it all that more interesting.
How much makes them interested? I mean, this is, and I don't begrudge any of them for any of the money they're making, but you had people honestly saying, Rory and Scheffler, why don't you guys just split the pot and go on home? One of the great things I think about golf is when you miss the cut. When the event's over, put your clubs in the trunk and beat it. I mean, that's part of it. Look, I think that, there is merit to how do we find other ways to entertain when you only have 2 balls in the air, when we're in a final and you got the consolation match. And yes, there's a difference in points and money. Really? You think Rory McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler after heartbreaking semifinals were dying lousy for those 35 FedEx Cup points in 160?
And they're exhausted.
Yeah,
they're exhausted. The amount of golf they have to play, and they got the Masters right around the corner. Most of those guys were happy to leave. They were happy to leave. So basically, where this tournament is on the schedule, I just doesn't work for me personally. Understanding the schedule at large, and I don't think a lot of the players, because most of them, if not all of them, are playing in the Masters. The top 64 players, right, are playing, and that takes me to this. I'm gonna just leave this this conversation with just mentioning that it just drives me bananas to not see Dustin Johnson and Bubba Watson included in a champions graphic on the Golf Channel and on television in general, just omitting them, just discrediting their performance and their wins by not showing that they were past champions. Just
agreed.
Blatantly taking them out. Right.
Agreed.
I have to say something.
It's petty. It's petty,
exactly.
And it is. The idea that, well, you should just let them play. Look, really? Okay, so if that's the truth about, well, they should really be that independent. They're not independent on LIV, not at all. If some of those guys wanted to go play the Valero Texas Open, no. You're playing in Orlando this week in the LIV event. So I don't want to hear about you should let them play tour events. No, they made a choice. They're on that tour. Good for them. Don't scrub your history. Don't scrub your history. That they are part of the history. Explain it. They're no longer here. Don't. That is so small-minded to do stuff like that, where you act as if they don't exist. Good grief! Just act like adults.
Yeah, Steve Elkington, I think, put it best in a Twitter post. He said, "Put an asterisk beside their name. Explain why there's an asterisk. Why they're
they don't even need the asterisks. Like they were a past champion. Just that's it. Their names are on trophies. What are you going to scrape them off of trophies now? Like, come on."
Yeah. I mean, Luke Donald and Hunter Mahan were listed on there. 2011 and 12 winners. They're not even playing. They're not even. So it just drove me crazy. I had to mention it. Let's move on to the Masters. Obviously, the first major of the year is going on, and it's a great segue because we have Dustin and Bubba playing. Why? Because they're former winners. They're green men of the green cloth, as they say. There's something to be said about this year's Masters being probably the most anticipated major in years. We've got the LIV players. We got Bryson DeChambeau. We've got Dustin Johnson. We've got Bubba Watson. And these players, Cam Smith. Oh yeah, the list goes on. Very, very, very well said. I think it's going to be exciting. These guys have a lot more to prove than these PGA Tour players. These guys want to go out there and actually put their foot down and say, we do exist, we do matter, and we love this game, and we're part of it. Your thoughts on them coming all together for the majors this year and how that's going to affect the storyline?
I couldn't agree more that it is, you can say, well, come on, they were at the US Open and PGA and Open Championship. This is the first Masters with LIV players. And I don't know. I'm very interested to see, do these guys show up wearing those team branded logo gear?
Oh, didn't even think about that.
I mean, really?
Yeah.
Are the fireballs coming rolling down Magnolia? Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I'm not joking. I'm not joking. Like that's what these guys wear now. I mean, are these guys going to be coming rolling in there, or is I don't know what the name of Phil's team is. Flight Scope.
High Flyers.
High Flyers. All right.
Are they contracted? Do they have to wear their team brand when they're outside?
Know.
Like, so that's a good. Like, we got to look into that because
I don't know. Here a couple things about it. You were saying that the PGA Tour players don't have something to prove. I think they do, because let's say hypothetically we go into the weekend and 3 of the top 5 names are LIV players, and they're going to be going, see, you guys, and I look, the world ranking thing, I think will work itself out. Oh. This is a very, very unusual circumstance, but these LIV guys are going to, yeah, you guys act as if, we are this or that. Now, I'm not an enormous fan of the overall product as far as 54 holes, shotguns, no cut. But the point is, the tour players do have something to prove. And if Cam Smith, who is not, Bryson is very polarizing. Cam Smith is liked by virtually everybody. So is Dustin Johnson. Whoever it is, a LIV guy and Rory, a LIV guy and Justin Thomas, a LIV guy and Jordan Spieth, and the last group on Sunday? Are you kidding? Wow. I mean,
Yeah,
it
exciting.
is. And I also wonder, does Augusta National, I think I know the answer to this, are any of the LIV guys, many of whom are past champions, on the pre-tournament press conference list? Are they bringing one of those guys in to sit for 20 minutes in front of the international media on a Tuesday? I doubt it. Patrick Reed, Sergio Garcia, Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson. I mean, these are recent winners.
Yeah.
Phil, not so much recent, but he won a major a couple of years ago. The whole thing is fascinating. The way that the Augusta National navigates, the way that these guys are either going to meet the media, how they're going to meet them. Again, how are they going to present themselves in terms of their appearance and their clothing?
It's all interesting.
Yeah.
I really feel like they should just let them speak. The more we try to control and muzzle the whole situation, the more it's going to be out of control. I think everybody's got to get everything out of their system. Now, there's obviously a respect level, and I think all these players going into, from the Masters dinner to going out to the range and playing the tournament, will respect the tournament itself. I think they understand their place in the game, the place where this tournament is happening, full of tradition and special, circumstances on how this tournament is played and where its place is in the whole realm of the golf game. I don't think it's going to be a zoo. I don't think people are, but they need to be able to speak their minds, because the questions are going to be there. Is the media going to be asked not to ask certain questions? We'll see how it plays out. And let's not forget, Phil Mickelson's going to play. Tiger Woods is a huge story. There's so many storylines. It's sort of polarizing, but exciting. It's exciting. I've never been so excited for a major in years.
We haven't had controversy like this in golf, where there's tension between players on such a scale. Like maybe the odd beef between a couple of guys here or there, Koepka and DeChambeau before they left. Sure, there's a bit of that, but there's dozens of guys who are going to be showing up to compete. So let's see it on the course. Like, I don't want to see a sideshow in the media tent. Of course, media is going to ask questions. That's what they're there for, and they should be.
Good job.
But yeah, exactly. And let them poke at them. But let's see some good, tension and some rivalries and some these guys don't like each other. Go battle it out on the course. Like, how fun would Sunday be if we have all these LIV and PGA players, dueling it out to win and knock each other off the podium. I think it's really we're always excited for the Masters, but this year is going to be a little different, and there's going to be a lot more eyeballs on it.
Who's going to be shaking in their boots is all the amateurs. Sam Bennett, Ben Carr, Harrison Crow. They're going to be and then you got the Matthew McLean, Mateo Fernandez, the amateur from not Peru, Argentina. I think they're going to be having, and let's not forget Gordon Sargent, another great amateur player.
Yeah.
And the other guy, I can't pronounce his name, from South Africa, Aldrich something or another. Sorry about that, Aldrich.
You can work on that for the next.
I have to work on it myself.
Oh, yeah.
There's your homework,
I remember
it
was like Poltergeist or something. Poltergeist or something.
Potgeider?
Yeah, he just won the Junior Invitational at Sage Valley, which is the best junior tournament in the world, by 10 shots last week.
Wow. Is that the one at Royal Lytham? Is that
minutes from Augusta?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's 17 years old.
Let's not forget
how. Yeah, he is. But there's that storyline. Let's not forget our amateurs, certainly. But even watching Abraham Ancer is going to be wild. I think he's a great player. He shapes the ball really well.
Yeah. And this is the thing. I actually miss these guys on tour now, right? They've made their decisions. They made their for business reasons, whatever they are. But I miss seeing these guys in the leaderboard in the mix, you know, and the live production, it wasn't all that exciting, you know, their you know, entrance into CW network and all that, and they dropped YouTube. I thought that was a unique twist for the live side, you know, it may because they are going after younger people, but at the end of the day, I miss seeing McDowell and Oosthuizen and all these guys. Like Oostie's always kind of in the mix at the Masters, and so
Every major.
great to have them back. So you know, we're only going to see them in the majors, but you know, just in general, like I think the leaderboards might have looked a little different over the last 10 months in the PGA Tour if you know the live wasn't around.
Yeah, anybody who says otherwise is not being objective about it. And no, they haven't signed you know, a star player in the offseason from season 1 into season 2. But look, if you looked at the match play bracket, the depth of the PGA Tour has taken a real dent. These players that you're mentioning, these are world-class players. You know, Cam Smith, is there somebody outside of Cam Smith who you'd say is a top 10 player right now? Well, probably not. But again, you don't have to go far to find, you know, the likes of an Abraham Ancer or a Thomas Peters who just joined them. And you know, when the form is right of these other guys, and Bryson's in a funky place right now. And that's the other part about trying to assess form. They don't play every week. They play, you know, infrequently, and it's hard to tell. But again, I can go through the field lists at a live event and go, there's 15 to 18 guys that would have been in the match play bracket.
Yeah,
they would have been it if they had stayed on the PGA Tour.
That's huge,
right?
And they continued to get whatever production was, however many wins, I don't know, but I mean, from Harold Varner to Thomas Peters to Louis Oosthuizen, Bryson, Koepka. Look, I can go. We both can just go down the list. The depth of the PGA Tour has taken a dent, and all you had to do was look at that match play bracket and go, "Why is that guy in there?" Well, he's now in a position to move up by virtue of the absence of literally 25 guys who could have been in this bracket.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys on PGA Tour that you scratch your head. Who the heck is that? You know, and you got to Google them. So in some ways it's opened up opportunity, but at the same time, but you know, I agree. It's like you take these guys off the tour, and like these are great personalities that unfortunately we're not going to see on a regular basis. And I'm hoping that they can hold their world ranking status high enough so that we see them in the majors.
I don't know. Again, I don't know, but guys like Paul Casey, and I'm not talking about whether they're in their prime or not. That's not the point. The point is that there are a number of guys who would be having good weeks, winning matches in the match play. And Poulter, again, world ranking. I'm talking about over the last couple of years, you put them back in these fields, and they made their choice, and good for them. And I hope they're happy. But I thought that the match play was a perfect example of examining the depth dent that LIV has inflicted on the PGA Tour. And Cam Smith is, you know, of the guys who are among the best in the world, whose form was so good when he left that there's no argument that he's a top 10 player in the world. And then, you know, the other again, put him back in the fields, let him play for a while, see what they would do. It's a combination of accomplishment, relevancy, and in their production level. The PGA Tour is given opportunities. Like you said, Mike, look, and there's a lot of good young players, and talent is not going to be denied, and they would find their way eventually anyway. But they found their way there sooner than they would have if LIV didn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so,
you know what I'd love to see, guys? Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say the way that transpired with LIV, like competition, you can't control a competitor in any business, you know, from entering a market, but just the way that all went down, The sideshow with, even Greg Norman's behavior, and maybe things could have been done differently. Perhaps instead of 3 exemptions from the PGA Tour to play elsewhere, maybe they could have been permitted 2 more and go experiment with LIV. And that way we keep some of these core guys, because any one of them could win any given week. But it's unfortunate. That's, the way it's transpired. We have no control of it. We can only look backwards at it. But it really just disjointed the highest level of golf. And like I said, it's frustrating to not watch these guys play regularly and play on a, can't say like LIV it's a startup, so they're going through growing pains. They don't have the production value. It's clearly noticeable. So it's just a shame, that we don't watch these guys.
The winter majors, the majors are already massive, and they just got bigger because
That's right.
it's now the only time that we will congregate the biggest names and the best players simultaneously 4 weeks out of the year.
Yeah. And it's great to see a company put together a documentary like Full Swing and be able to expose the game of golf. They're going into a second season next year, so this is pretty exciting stuff. Hopefully they'll focus a little bit more on the LIV rivalry with the PGA Tour. But I want to switch over.
It was boring. Yeah. I thought that series was boring, actually. The first couple episodes are okay, and it just sort of fizzled away for me.
It's not for us, guys.
Yeah.
We know too much already.
Yeah. No, it's true. It was true. It's for the beginner. 100%. The beginning fan.
But I'll tell you what I'd love to see. I'd love to see a senior player do really well. I mean, I'm not talking about Sandy Lyle or Larry Mize. They should bow out.
Why don't you want them to do well? All right.
Well, it'd be great to see them do well, but I think they need to bow out and make 2 more spots for some other guys. But like a Fred Couples, Vijay Singh would be nice. How about Bernard Longer, who's still somehow managing to get the ball around? And, on the Champions Tour, they're playing, 5, 6, 7 under on some of these rounds. They're finishing at 15 under par. It's so competitive. Yeah. It's really exciting to see. But I'm thrilled to watch all these players do well. Some of the new faces that are up and coming as well.
Yeah, it's you mentioned the amateurs, and look, the Masters. It's so interesting that there's so many aspects about it, and I'm working on a piece about like why I think the Masters is what it is, and it is the shortest major field by a huge margin, and you look at the combination of the amateurs and the past champions, and you're going, wow, that's like. It's like 20% of the field. I mean, that's like, so you can say it's the easiest one to win quantitatively, but it's the hardest one to win intellectually and emotionally, because like the weightiness of winning it makes it just almost unbearable. And like one of the neat things about the Masters is think about the other 3 majors on Thursday and Friday. Who is the last group coming in? Qualifiers or club professionals in the PGA Championship that are trying to get in under the cover of darkness. Mm-hmm. But on Thursday and Friday, you know what the last group will be? 3 of the biggest stars in golf. I don't know who it's going to be yet. We'll wait until they roll out the groupings. But on Thursday and Friday, the last group, which is going to go off around 2:45, and they'll be pulling the curtain down on Thursday and Friday. It may be Spieth. It could be Justin Thomas. It could be Rory. It could be Tiger. That doesn't happen in the other 3 majors. The biggest stars are well off the golf course before the last hour to 90 minutes of groups are coming in those 156-man fields. And you're going, I wouldn't know that guy if he fell on me, but not in the Masters. It's just totally different.
Yeah. He doesn't realize. Raf, you're muted.
Oh, so here I am talking about Gary and your unique opportunity that you had back in 2019 following Tiger Woods on that infamous Sunday. I'm still waiting for the book to come out. I've messaged you that I'm I've heard bits and pieces and little stories or experiences that you had and watching a certain shot shape or the crowd reacting a certain way. I'd love for you to paint a picture and come out with not just an article, but a book. I think it would do very well. Here's the thoughts on that. Thoughts on
Raf? I look, I appreciate it. I've been lucky to have a lot of really neat experiences. It's going to be hard for that final round, walking every step with him, not knowing what was going to happen, the uniqueness of the split tees and threes on a Sunday morning, not twos late on a Sunday because of the impending weather issues, and going off with Francesco Molinari and Tony Finau. And I have a little leather book that I've got to get a new one before I head down there next week, that I write notes in when I'm on whatever golf course it is. And so I have all 70 of his shots chronicled in this book. Time-stamped, wind direction, where he was in relation to the leaders. It was a remarkable day. And I asked a producer from Golf Channel, Ben Dawn, who's a really fine player himself, to walk with me that morning. And he said, no, I'm going to get in the car. I'm going to drive back to Orlando. I'll watch it tonight. I'm like, what? Come on, come with me. He's like, oh, I'll walk for an hour. So Tiger bogeyed 4 and 5, and he goes, I'm out of here. I'm like, don't leave. I don't know if you're going to win, but don't leave. He didn't leave. I think he's happy he didn't leave.
Yeah.
It was amazing to see the systematic kind of implosions by Koepka, Finau, Molinari, Cantlay. I mean, we're talking murderer's row here. It was lined up to take him down, and he was the lone survivor. It was incredible.
Yeah, there's something to be said about Tiger's name being at the top of the leaderboard or climbing his way up, and players thinking about who this guy is and what he means to them, and not only as players. It creeps into your head. And so I feel that, these players started thinking about Tiger Woods, right? You start seeing his name on the leaderboard, and obviously the tension of playing a back nine at the Masters. I have no idea how that feels, but it must be nerve-wracking, right? Well, even at that level.
You start to hear the Tiger roars at Augusta. That's got to weigh in on the subconscious of all of these players. And
it did.
With Tiger's injuries and stuff being out of the game, they haven't experienced the full fear factor that some of the older players who have been out on tour have experienced, basically playing for second most of the time.
Yeah, and it's interesting how it had shifted from, when you watch Tiger and you followed him at majors 15, 18 years ago, it was inevitable what the result was going to be. So yeah, the crowds were boisterous, but he didn't need their help.
No.
Now there is this sentimentality and this affection that I never thought he was going to experience. That not only is he older, but he's physically compromised, and people understand the potential gravity of the achievement. So they literally were trying to pull him across the line in 19. That's a suffocating dynamic for the other players. Yeah. To have to wade through. And I don't think it's going to, materialize again. But in the event that it did, Katie bar the door, it would be unimaginable.
Yeah.
Yeah. The greatest win he's ever had was the 2019 Masters, as far as the major is concerned, with all the comebacks, with all the swing changes, with all the things that have happened in his personal life, and how he's transcended sports and the game and everything. It's pretty amazing to see him play, and there's a reason why there's this magical thing that happens when he plays. There's something very special that happens, and it's hard to describe. I followed him in 2000 when he won the Canadian Open, won the Triple Crown. I had a similar thing. I was following along. Grant Waite was in the final pairing with Tiger Woods as he came up eight 18, and he had that famous 6-iron shot, and I was walking up on the far side where it hit into the bunker. And I was with my friend Robert Goulas and Steve Pacheco. As you know, Mike, these players, they wanted to leave. They wanted to take a nap. We were tired. I said, no, there's something going to be happening. I have to see this tee shot. They walked off. I waited at the bunker after Davis Love hit the bunker just before that, laid up, and Tiger was in the bunker. I watched the shot firsthand with no crowd on that far side and him hitting that shot. And the crowd roaring and that moment happening, every hair on my body was up straight, up straight. It was an incredible moment. I followed Mike Weir and Tiger Woods at where I was an assistant professional at Royal Montreal Golf Club at the 2007 President's Cup and walked every hole. And it just built from the first hole on. Mm-hmm. Having 20,000 people following a group. I've never experienced anything. It was like a stadium, a hockey stadium of Canadian crazy fans going from one hole.
You froze up a bit, Raph, but I was there too,
Gary. Crowds
were
so loud. And
do you remember that? Raph, do you remember the crowd shouting, fight, 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 while Tiger we're battling it out?
On 17, when Mike made that putt on 17, which is a par 3, a very short par 3 to tie up the match and to go into the last hole, and then Tiger putting his ball in the water on 18, trying to cut the full corner on that par 4, I was standing beside Roger Maltby, and I said, I played this hole 60, 70 times in the last 2 years. And with the line he's going after, he has to clear 295. It's impossible. There was a Canadian flag at the end of that pond on that dogleg left. And I told Roger, as he hit it, I go, that's going in the water. He said, no, watch this. And I go, watch what? That's going. And it landed in the water. He hit his second shot and actually cleared that whole turn. But and losing to Mike Weir by one shot, it was the greatest Canadian match ever played. And I've been writing that book for 20 years, so I know how you feel, Gary. I've got all my notes. I've been wanting to come up with something, but we'll see how that goes.
And by the way, shame on, what was his name, Mike Pacheco, who wanted to take a nap.
Steve
Pacheco.
Oh yeah, actually,
come on, Steve. Want to take a nap?
Yes.
Right at the pinnacle of the event. Like, come on, like that's insane.
My buddy Rob was sleeping under the tree. He had enough. He had a few drinks that day, and just after he missed the shot. He woke up because of the roar. But that being said, that was an incredible moment. I've played that shot. I actually played it last year too. Took somebody out on the golf course. Always drop the ball in that bunker, and to clear that bunker.
People have thousands and thousands.
Oh yeah,
the
pros hate it. The pros absolutely hate it. So I did the same, but I hit a hybrid and still couldn't get down to the green. So it's yeah. So, but yeah, it's funny. Like golf tournaments, like it makes you appreciate what you see on TV sometimes, because it's great to be there. You catch the right moment, and it's absolutely electrifying. But sometimes it's a lot of work walking around a venue and getting the right place to catch a vantage point from, and lining up for food and all that. It's a long day.
Golf is a very challenging viewing experience.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And then, you want to watch a group of stars. Good luck. You got to run ahead, get to the next tee, you see a tee shot, and then, maybe get to the next tee there's no doubt. I think it's a great way to spend a day because you're actually getting exercise. You're not plopping down in a chair and having a foot-long hot dog some chili fries and a couple of cold ones. You may have that, but you're going to walk 5, 6, 7 miles.
Mm-hmm. You have to be prepared for it. So, you might sit around under a tree and rest for a little bit and then jump back into the action.
Take a nap when the greatest player of your lifetime is hitting on 18.
Like, how regretful is that, though? You miss, arguably one of his best shots, just to hit a ball into that part of the green with water. And, it's insane.
Insane.
Guys,
we're lucky to have Tiger. Go ahead, Raph.
We're lucky to have Tiger. Guys, we're going to wrap this up. I didn't realize how long we've been going. Sorry to hold you up, Gary. I don't know if you had something to do, but we're just going to finish it off with maybe 2 picks. How about 1 pick for the Masters and 1 dark horse? We'll keep it really simple. I'll start off with a pick that I'm going to have. I think Cam Smith is a fantastic player. He finished, let's not forget, he finished second, with the 3 top 10 finishes. I've rarely in my career have seen a player be able to shape the ball the way he has and have the game and the demeanor and the putting stroke and the full game in general. I'm just concerned that he hasn't played enough PGA Tour events. He might be in a different mindset. I have no idea where his game is at because I haven't really been following LIV, but he is my pick. He is a player that I believe will be able to be in that top 10 come Sunday.
That would be extraordinary. That would be, again, he won the last major played. A lot has transpired since then. I tell you one thing with respect to him, and I think it applies to most, if not all of them, maybe with the exception of Patrick Reed, who I do not think is self-conscious. It's going to be hard for them not to feel some self-consciousness because of the whole LIV thing. And whatever media they do, they're going to be asked about it. And, Cam Smith is not going to experience, venom his way. It would be really something if he's right in the middle of it. And there's no reason to think he won't be. The only reason I would say he wouldn't is he hadn't played a lot of golf. And, again, I wonder about how self-conscious they're going to be, how comfortable they're going to feel. So we'll see.
Yeah. Myself, I think all my picks would be dark horses. I got such a bad risk profile. But I'm going to tap Shane Lowry.
Interesting.
A real dark pick would be Fleetwood, because he just seems to be, he's been heating up lately, and he's had a taste of the leaderboard in the Masters before, but just never ever closes the deal in the weekend. But so that's what I would go with. If I was to pick a LIV player specifically, I'll choose Reed because he is a real dark horse, but he seems to thrive in controversy.
Totally.
No matter what's going on, the public heckling at him, throwing pop cans at him, whatever it might be, he loves it. And who knows? You never know. He's a past champion. He's done it before. So,
yeah, I that would be I think of the LIV guys. He doesn't care. He's always responded very well to friction and tension, which is a very particular personality trait. But
yeah.
I'm not going to overthink this. I don't think there's any reason to think that Scottie Scheffler can't defend. His form is excellent. I think he's the best player in the world right now.
Yeah.
And he's going back
unflappable.
to the place he's unflappable.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Scheffler is going to do something that's only been done a couple of times in the history of the event. So I'll say that he will go back to back. My dark horse, it's dark horses like you mentioned, Tommy Fleetwood. Relatively speaking, yeah, I get it. I mean, he's a top 25 player in the world. I'll give you somebody who's a little bit further down the world rankings, having a good year. Keith Mitchell. Keith Mitchell has the requisite length on that golf course. I think his form is very good. He's having a very good year. But picking dark horses at Augusta are, Zalatoris. Yeah, at the time he's proven clearly not to be a dark horse guy. He's an absurdly talented guy. Yeah, dark horses at Augusta. It's like, what's the definition? Like, what's the definition of a dark horse at the Masters and the definition of a dark horse at the U.S. Open? They're different.
Well, that's great. They are different. I think it has a lot to do with favorites. Looking a little bit at statistics and then finding a player that you could actually relate to in the sense that you like his playing style, you like his recent statistics, his history at a certain golf course. When I look at someone like Corey Connors, finishing T6 in 2022, him being Canadian, being a great player, being very consistent. Low round is 65 at the Masters. He made 4 out of the 5 cuts he's played there. That's, you know, and him being obviously Canadian, so I've got that kind of tilt
Sure.
for the player. But a great 31-year-old, you know,
yes.
T10 in 2020, T6 in 2022. I think he, you know, we'll see him there on Sunday as well in that top 10.
Been 20 years since the Canadians won the Masters, right?
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yes,
so
it is.
Who knows? Yeah. So no, that's good. What about this dinner before we go here? Like,
oh yeah,
you know,
I'm glad you
licking my
mentioned that.
chops looking at this dinner. You know, cheeseburger slider. Like, oh yeah,
ribeye steak.
Look. He nailed it. He nailed it. Now Hideki's menu was spectacular.
Yes.
And from what I understand, not that any of them are not, you know, very tasty meals, but Scheffler nailed it. I mean, he is touched on like everything. You go, oh God, a cheeseburger slider. Are you kidding? Like, is there a better shareable item than a plate full of sliders and everybody gets their own? You can handle it with one hand.
Firecracker shrimp with sweet Thai chili and sriracha mayo. You got the tortilla soup. You got the ribeye steak or the blackened.
See, I want both. I don't want I want a piece of both. Yeah,
that's called surf and turf, my friend.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean that is gluttony at its heightest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's served with the mac and cheese with the jalapeno creamed corn, fried Brussels sprouts, seasoned fries. I'm gonna go for dinner after this.
Yeah. The guy, anybody who says, oh, this guy, you know, he's not that interesting. That menu shows you that he gets it. Like he gets it. That is a killer menu. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. So what do you think the bill Scottie's going to get is going to be? 50 grand? 25 grand?
How many players are we talking about?
You start adding a couple fine labels of wine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no, it's north of 25. You know, think about it. You know, I'm thinking it's I'm guessing it's probably close to 2,000 a head in that room.
Mm-hmm.
All in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are those guys cheap, or is this just a tradition, right? Come on. Like,
they couldn't take that out of the TV budget somewhere or what? Yeah. No, I love the story of Amy Mickelson years ago. Phil requested some better wine, and you know, so they went and got it. She ran over and cut off the server because they were going to just charge Phil for it. So if you probably heard that, Gary.
Oh yeah. No, if VJ did the same thing at the Champions dinner on Sunday night, they always had the champion have dinner at the club that Sunday night. And VJ wanted a certain wine. And they didn't give him any discount. I mean, there is, you know, you want this, you're going to pay for it, and rightly so, and rightly so.
Yeah, but none of them are hurting for money, that's for sure. So why not?
Gary, thanks for joining us. Tell us where we could listen to your new show. Is it Tuesdays on XFM?
Yes, Tuesdays 8:00 Eastern on SiriusXM. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be with Johnson Wagner, 3-time PGA Tour winner, and Taylor Zarzour. Taylor is the host of the starter on SiriusXM. Three of us are going to be at a club here in Charlotte tomorrow night, so we'll be originating from there live. Which is great. And then, you know, we launched our website, 5 Clubs Golf, about a month ago. We waited over a year. We wanted to have a library of shows and content so that when people went there, they went, okay, great. There's one show here. Terrific. No, there are more than 70 shows that are there now. I'm writing on a regular basis. So it's not just me, it's Emma Carpenter. Johnson's, his first solo show will be the week after the Masters. He'll have tennis great Andy Roddick on with him in studio together. So 5clubsgolf.com is the website, and Tuesday nights on SiriusXM.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
We'll tag that in the post when this show goes up, and you know, hopefully we flood you with traffic. So
outstanding.
Hey, just make sure you send us your address. We're going to send you some free merch. We got some caps and cups, and a whole bunch of. We got a whole site up, so we will send you some stuff. You could use it to wipe down your clubs or wear it at some point.
The ball
that
cap
being said,
I need another hat. I do.
There you
I
go.
only have about 300 of them, and I wear one every day.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely. We'll send you down some swag. We're working on a few other pieces. We're in talks with a provider to assist us in the swag department. So that is fantastic. So yeah, 100%. So yeah, thanks again, Gary, and to anyone who's listening, please smash subscribe. We will be up on the podcast platforms tomorrow, right now on YouTube, and we'll share this through our social media. So we appreciate all of you. Thank you.
All right, for Gary Williams, Michael Bleackley, I'm Rafael Kalamat. You've been listening to the Golf Podcast Live. I'm at Mindshare Workspace, your one-stop shop to get all your work done in your podcasts, and ECS Agency out in Vancouver for all your digital needs. Guys, have a great week. We'll see you next week